Hello there, everyone, and welcome to this week's Fueling Your Faith. Now, this morning, woken up to the news that there's been a big breakthrough with vaccine, which is obviously amazing news. And my first thought was, oh, wow, won't it be great to be able to gather again as a church? Won't that be a beautiful thing? Yes, holidays and office life and sport and all those things, that'll be great. But I mean, obviously, clearly, we are a long way off. There's still a number of hurdles to go through. But it did set my mind racing to kind of hope and all of those kinds of things. And I think that is, that's something that I was speaking on Sunday. And it's something I just want to pull out a little bit this morning as well, today, with Fueling Your Faith, just to get our hearts in the right place on these things, because as these different kind of things come forward, will lockdown work? Does that give us hope? Or does the prospect of a vaccine, does that give us hope? Does the return to normality give us hope? What is it that gives us hope? And in the storm, hope is clearly a really important thing. And on Sunday, I gave four causes really of storms, and by storms I mean anything, from pandemics to personal loss. Suffering's a different issue with regards to Christianity, because I think that's related to persecution and all sorts of things. But personal suffering, personal sickness, personal loss, personal aspects, or even corporate kind of sense of loss with regards to something like a pandemic. Those are the storms of life. And in those storms of life, I identified four kind of key things. Now, the first a cause or thing that can cause those kinds of things is humanity's stupidity. Okay, that's the first one, humanity's stupidity, and that can be individual stupidity. I'll give you an example from the Bible of that. Jonah. Okay, Jonah hears clearly from God, this is what you are meant to do. He runs the other way. What happens? A storm comes along. When he's thrown in the sea, the storm stops. Okay, you get the picture. Individual or corporate kind of humanity's stupidity that can lead to an error or something that happens. War may be a very good example of this. Secondly, it can be due to the devil at work. And I'm going to be a bit controversial here. The devil. That's a really good example in Job. Now, Job, I know there's lots of discussions on Job with regards to God's involvement. And I want to come back to that on the last point. But clearly, the agent of Job's suffering, one who causes the suffering, causes the storms, is the devil, and he does have authority on this planet to cause pain and suffering and storms. The third one is that we live in a planet which is struggling. It is a fallen planet. In Eden, there was perfection, humanity, and creation, and God were linked together, but as a function of mankind's, and that's Adam and Eve, rejection of God's rule, the whole planet suffered, and therefore we have natural disasters. We have all sorts of things going on which cause suffering. So there's that aspect. And then, and we see that in Genesis 3, we see in Luke 21, Jesus talking about groaning and suffering of the planet. Now, and then there's the last one, and that's that. So all these are possible. Possibly it's human stupidity, possibly it's the devil at work, possibly it's just a function of the fact that we live on a planet which is a pretty stuffed. Lastly, it can be God. Now, I think what can happen is that we can confuse God's sovereignty over everything and say he is responsible for all of those things. Well, in one sense he is, because he's sovereign over everything. It's his judgment, his rule, on the fallenness of the planet. It's his authority that he gives to the devil to cause suffering to Job. It is his sovereignty and his kind of finger on Jonah, which brings him back. Yes, those in a general sense, he's sovereign, so that's one aspect, and that just messes with your head slightly. But he is not the agent in those places. The cause of those things are individual sin, individual stupidity, the devil, fallen planet. Okay, but God can occasionally bring about individual or can bring about corporate suffering. So he is an agent sometimes as well. And we see that as a good example in Paul's Thorn. Now, Paul specifically prays for that to be taken away. So you are still allowed to ask for things to go, even though it's God's. And Paul comes along and is told specifically by God, no, this is something you should endure. Now, the danger we have is that we can apply any specific element to one of those four things. And I've got to be honest, unless you have a specific revelation, I would be very cautious about attributing it to God. I think that's kind of a place you don't want to go immediately. And you do want to look at those other ones first. Now, with regards to this current pandemic, this current storm that the world is facing, I've got to be honest, I have no idea. But interestingly, in all four of those things, our reaction is to be the same, and that is faith and trust in God. Faith and trust in who He is. Faith and trust in Him. That was the kind of that's the thing we want to go for. So in all of those situations and all the things I've talked about, God does rescue or He strengthens. He does one of those two things. So if we look at Jonah, he was rescued by a whale, not the most pleasant way, but anyway, he was rescued. If we look at Job, he was restored. So he was rescued out of that, he was restored. We look at the storms of life, Jesus on a boat in a storm in Luke 8:22, and there's a storm, he's woken up. He doesn't say, well, this storm has been caused by God, so I can demonstrate who I am. No, he wakes up and he rescues the disciples. So there's a peace thing. But with the case of Paul, he strengthens. So it's both of these things. We can understand and grasp who God's character is, and we can be strengthened or we can be rescued. And either way, it's a winner for us as Christians, because we know as Christians that our eternal destiny is secured, that the overall rescue plan is there, and that one day there will be a planet where there is no suffering. One day there will be a relationship with Jesus where His will is always done. One day the devil will not have authority over us. There is that day to look forward to as Christians, and in the meantime, we can look forward to either rescue or strengthening in any given moment. So I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to pray and continue to pray for this pandemic to finish, for the vaccine to be successful, that there would be rescue, and in the meantime that we would be strengthened. And God, He strengthens us. He strengthens me. He strengthens you. So bless you with that, church. Be encouraged. Keep going. Be strengthened in the name of Jesus. And one last thing I almost forgot. I hope those of you stuck to the end here, look, you get an extra tidbit. Next Tuesday, we're hoping to open the building for prayer, so that people will be able to pop in for individual prayer. We're not allowed to corporately pray. We're not allowed to have somebody lead at the front, but individuals can be there. And you can have more. We'll be able to have more than one person at the building at any given time. It's not you only have the building to yourself. It's not how it works. But you can come in. You'll be socially distanced. All the things there. You won't be able to kind of speak out loud lots and lots, but hey, there'll be something there, and we're just working on having some prayer points up for you as well, which will hopefully help you from that point of view. So if anybody wants to come and do that, the building will be open. Okay, so that'll be from next Tuesday onwards. Looking forward to that. Okay, well, bless you. There we go. I have finished now. Have an amazing week, and yes, keep praying, be strengthened, and look forward to what God will do. Bless you. Bye-bye.